Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on how to make 2023 your best year yet. I'm very excited to share some strategies and tips and tricks that hopefully will allow you to achieve all your goals that you may have set for this year. And as they say, new year, new you. So we'll say new year, new practice. Let's transform and elevate what you're already doing. A lot of you, or all of you, I would say, are working very hard to provide the best care to patients. And if you don't have a good business, if you don't have a good bottom line, then you cannot serve your patients. So we really want to help you achieve both of those goals. So I am the Chief Operating Officer of PracticeWeb, Neil Kotari, and I'm very proud to be part of PracticeWeb. As most of you know by this point, we've been serving dentists since the early 90s. We help all sorts of dentists, whether you're solo or multi-location, if you're a general dentist to a specialist. And we do have an all-in-one practice management solution. So we try to be a one-stop shop. And I think with all of the efforts we've put in over the years, that has led to us receiving a 98% happiness rating and getting accolades across the board from all the review sites out there. So we are very proud to serve you on a daily basis. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe, and also enable your notifications. I wanted to just start off with this quote that from the famous investor Warren Buffett. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. So if you're sitting in a nice practice right now, it's because of a lot of efforts you and your team put in over the years. But at some point, maybe you're not where you want to be. Maybe you want to be in a better position with your practice. Then let's plant the seeds right now, right here, and then someday soon you'll be sitting in that shade. Hopefully by December. I mean, this is a 2023 webinar, so we want to get you to the promised land by the end of this year. So just to give a quick overview, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to have 10 areas to focus on. I haven't listed them all here because there's so many, but we're going to focus on 10 areas for 2023, and then we'll give an opportunity to ask questions. But there's a ton of, we were trying to hit every major area, especially where PracticeWeb can help you. But this is going to be kind of a overview session, a table of contents, if you will, of the areas you need to focus on. So the first area is improving retention. So for improving retention, that is a key component because, as we'll discuss, it's important to keep the patients you have instead of just going out for new patients. And I think everyone is clear on that point. But what they may not be clear on is how costly it is to your practice. So on average, there's been several studies done, but on average, 17% of your patients will basically go inactive or not keep coming to your office. And so if we just take, let's say an average practice has 2,500 active patients, that's 425 patients you're losing. And if you just extrapolate, that's a big annual loss, $250,000. And if over the lifetime of a practice, it could be somewhere north of 8 million. So patient attrition, people leaving your practice, not showing up, and they're not going to do like a noisy retreat there. They're just you're just not going to hear from them anymore. You're not going to see them showing up. So it's almost like a silent problem that just kind of leakage, and you want to close that leakage. So what are some ways to prevent that? So it's number one is we got to meet or exceed their expectations. So there was a study done on what's most important to patients, and they were able to select multiple things here. That's why you have these numbers. So obviously for them, number one is going to be dentist quality work. Were they satisfied with the results, clinically speaking? And number two was making sure that the treatment plan and the treatment finances were clear. Number three was just having a clean, modern, up-to-date office. I think dental offices are really stepping up their game over the last 10 years, where you see a lot of nice little effects put into the waiting room, etc. And just you want to try to put your best foot forward with your office. Then dentists being gentle, not being too blunt with how they're approaching the patients, and just being gentle, having good chairside manner is important. that also trickles into the staff as well. The staff being friendly and welcoming the moment they walk in the door. Payment options, which we're going to cover in today's webinar, and then having a short wait time, of course. So these are the top considerations when patients are trying to choose a dentist and whether to keep coming back to that dentist. So another area which we're going to touch upon more is having just good reminders, having good hygiene recare. I'm showing some text messages here. I'll cover some of this later, but just an example of you need to have a good reminder and recare system in order to keep patients coming back, because patients forget or they don't prioritize their dental care. And so for that reason, it's not like they're purposefully ignoring you or not coming in. They just kind of get busy or they prioritize other things. So we got to be front and center. The best way to be front and center is texting, to be in their, on their phone. They can't ignore you. But whatever you do, whether it's newsletters, mailing, etc., just be front and center, because, they may show up when there's a toothache, but otherwise they don't prioritize that regular care. So we want to remind them of the importance. Now, another thing is to make sure that, patients may sort of stop coming, but we can reactivate, right? So there's many ways to reactivate. One easy way in Practice Web is to go to the recall list. And I would say run an 18 to 36 month campaign every few months. Just check out who those patients are. You can, text them. You can do a mass text, which is really super easy. And if you pair that with our online scheduling feature, actually, you could put in a link right in the text to have them scheduled to come back in. And that's like a 1-2 punch. Another approach that our offices take are postcards, which can be effective. And you can even create your own separate like labels and etc. You can email. So there's so many ways. There's no reason why you shouldn't be running a reactivation campaign every 3 or 6 months, and even maybe even more often than that, but at least 3 or 6 months would be a good approach. So run that from the recall, and we can help you. Just call us if you ever want to make sure you're doing it the right way. Next would be to continue building relationships, right? So we don't want to be like the debt collector coming and, hey, it's time for your recare and you gotta get in, and they don't like to just hear you when they're due. You want to be an expert. You want to be the dental expert. You want to be the person educating them of why it's important to have regular care. A lot of people just don't think it's important, right? Until something starts hurting or they can't chew or they can't, bite anymore. That's what pushes them to come. But we got to be educating them. So the best way nowadays to do that is newsletters. Obviously, you can send out one physically, which I don't think is a bad idea, but email is going to be very effective. So most, or I would say all very successful practices are doing some sort of newsletter nowadays. So you can do that through Practice Web. We have a service for it, very low cost service, but essentially you want to educate them. It's not just about, hey, we have a dental special, come in, but it's more about education, right? So, and then telling them, hey, there's financing available, there's same day care if you need it. But I think the educational component is really, really helpful. So build those relationships. Now, another thing is seizing every opportunity. We have a great free feature in Practice Web called Patient Dashboard. A lot of you have started using this, but I think there's still many practices that don't use it. So there's a tutorial on this, but essentially with the Patient Dashboard, whenever you're working on a patient or a patient calls in, you can easily see some of the key areas to make sure they're on track. So for example, their recall, right? Are they due? And if so, are they scheduled? You can check any planned treatment that hasn't been scheduled for them. You can check balances, obviously, to make sure those are clear. You can, if they have detailed insurance information, in this example, I don't have that, but if you do, then you can see how much coverage they have remaining. And then that way you can sort of pitch that to the patient, right? You have all this coverage. Let's see what can get covered for this treatment. I think we'll be able to take care of you. And so, as I said, there's another separate tutorial on this on our YouTube page. Just go check that out. Very short 8-minute video, but do set up the patient dashboard. Another way to do this is really great, called Smart Caller ID. So when the patients call in, you can quickly see their information. It'll pop up right away. So things like their next appointment, if they are due for recare, if they have treatment plans that are outstanding that they haven't signed up for yet. You can have these smart discussions with patients within those 60 seconds you might have, right? So you got to be really quick on your feet, and then we make you quick on your feet. Another thing you can do here actually is you can even verify their insurance with a single click to just make sure everything's up to date, and they can talk about that with the patient. So that's another way to seize every opportunity. So that's just strategy number one. Strategy number one being retention. Number two is in 2023, let's reduce the broken appointments, right? So this is a bane of the practice existence. Everyone hates this, but it nevertheless keeps happening. It's just the kind of reality that we live in. So on average, there's a 10% cancellation rate. Some offices might be at 30%, some might be at 5%. Depends on what you're doing, right? So if you're 10, then annual loss, let's say for a practice producing 1.5 million, you're looking at 150,000 just from cancellations, and then that could be a very large lifetime loss. So what can we do? Have a very good reminder and confirmation system. This is the by far number one way to prevent this. So what we allow, and this is just kind of, you can look at this from a texting perspective or just a general perspective, right? But when you're making the appointment, make sure if it's in the office, either with our system texting, you can automatically send a save the date reminder to their phone. So they put it in their calendar. Let's say they have like an Apple or Google Calendar. They can put it right away so they don't forget. But you can also give them a card as they're walking out. That's very common going back many years. Then let's say you have a Recare appointment, so it's not really on their radar when it comes close. They might have forgotten. Most likely they have forgotten about it. So then you want to send an initial reminder with our texting system. You can do that 4 weeks before automatically, or whatever number of weeks you want to do there. And then a confirmation of some sort is critical. So text is best, but you can call. You can do whatever. 7 days before, approximately, is a good time period because that gives you enough time to reschedule that if they change reschedule and fill the gap. And also it's not too early where the patient, may still change their mind, right? So you don't want to do it too early, too late. And then the final reminder is critical, so that we can do with texting automatically. But email reminders we also have, and you might, if you need to call people, you can do that too. So we've addressed the texting side of that in many other webinars, so I'm not going to go into more detail, but that's basically have that ironclad system. Next is how do you address cancellations? So have a clear policy, right, in your forms, which you can customize. Have a very clear policy of what will happen with cancellations. And I think there's always a debate about whether you should charge the patient or not. You don't want to turn people off. That's kind of a practice decision, but I think having a clear policy that you review with them is very critical right when they join your practice. Then train your team. You can use the wiki. There's a really nice wiki feature a lot of people don't use in Practice Web, where you can put all your policies. It's really great for training. I think we have a separate webinar on that or a tutorial, but you can call us to set that up. But the wiki is really good. So have a policy so that your team knows what to do, right? What do we do in this situation? So when is the fee waived? When is the fee not waived? When are patients dismissed? What do we tell the patient? What's the public policy presented to patients? So that's good to train. Then remind patients. So during intake, tell them something like, doctor sets aside time for you. And when people don't show up, that means someone else who needed to be treated can't be, right? So let's really guilt trip them a little bit during the intake so they get the right mindset from the beginning. Then scheduling wise, when you schedule, remind them again, let us know 48 hours before. We'll be able to take care of it. Hopefully you can show up, but we can take care of 40 hours. If it's within 48 hours, then we're going to have a cancellation fee. And then also, in reminders and when you're confirmed, you can put that in your custom text within Practice Web. That this is, let's say, confirmation text. You can put it in there too. Hey, 48 hours notice is required, or you're going to get charged. Then empathize. When you have that discussion, when that comes up, you can say, maybe let them know that you care about their well-being before everything else, right? It's not just about the cancellation fee, but we care about them. So we don't want you to lose the spot. I hate to see you fall out of the schedule. That tooth was really bothering you. We really do want to take care of that. wasn't that the tooth that the doctor was really worried about? You kind of empathize, right? And then enforce, right? So start gently. Dr. Patel had a whole hour set aside for you. Are you sure there's no way you can make it in? Like, is there something you can move around? Depending on what their situation is, right? If it's a medical emergency or something, then that's different. But if they can move something around, maybe. Then be firm. If you have a policy, implement that. There is a policy, so a $50 charge will be placed on your account. So this is like, it's not about you, right? It's not you're going to charge something. There's no I here. It's a professional. You're a professional. Actually, you're not the professional that's in charge of the fee. It's the doctor has set this or the office has set this, right? So you're just the messenger, and that'll make it a little bit less of a personal situation. And then reappoint, right? Reschedule them, and we'll talk about that too in a second here. But reschedule is the key thing. Now, another thing with this problem of cancellations is if you have fast and convenient two-way texting. We've seen it time and time again where what happens is sometimes patients don't even have time to call you, so they wait till the last minute, or you might call them, oh yeah, I was going to let you know I have to actually, cancel that because something came up, right? You've probably all faced that situation. So instead, give them a channel, give them an avenue, a path through which they can easily let you know, right? Make it easy. If you're sending reminders and confirmations, you're going to make it super easy for them just to text back. If they really do need to reschedule, they can text back, and you're going to find out much earlier if you have two-way texting than otherwise, because otherwise patients are going to wait till the last minute or until you call them to cancel. So that's another hidden benefit of two-way texting. So here's an kind of a scenario where the reminder went out, the guy has to reschedule. You can reply from within PracticeWeb, and it's taken care of, right? And so in PracticeWeb, it looks something like this. You have an alert when there's new text that comes in. You can do all the two-way texting from within PracticeWeb. So have that channel open. It's like a line of communication. Now, those are the ways, different strategies to prevent cancellations. Now, how do we improve the Recare system? It's such a big part of your practice. In 2023, we got to make sure this is healthy, right? So low pre-appointment rates. Pre-appointment meaning that the patient is not scheduled in the future. So what happens is you actually, on average, there's a 60% pre-appointment rate. So all your active patients, only 60% of them are actually scheduled for anything in the future. Let's say Recare, etc. So that's the reality. We all like it to be 100%. At least, everyone should be coming back in for their Recare appointment, but it's really 60%. So that's a loss of $500,000, and that's a huge loss, lifetime loss. And that's talking about the 40% that we're not pre-appointing. I mean, obviously, some of them will come back at some point, so you'll recover some of that, but still, it's a big loss of patients who are not getting reappointed or pre-appointed. So why? Well, I mean, there's little different reasons for this, but that's kind of one point of you gotta pre-appoint. Make sure your patients, when they're walking out, they're leaving with their next Recare, at least their next Recare scheduled. And that's where the patient dashboard will help. Now, another thing here when it comes to Recare system is perio, right? So you may have heard these facts about there's roughly 46% of adults with perio disease. This is coming straight from the CDC, so it's a very official statistic. But now, what does that mean for perio production? So you should have roughly 33% of your patients on perio if we were going to line up with the reality of perio disease. But what happens is roughly 3%. So that's a huge discrepancy there. And I'm actually going to show you a real life example of this next. But perio production is typically 3%, and it should be roughly 33%. Now, the one thing that's going to hold maybe you back from going to 33 is financial, right? So patients, you might tell them, hey, you need to be on SRP, but they don't want to pay that extra amount, or maybe insurance doesn't cover it for some reason. So obviously you got to work within that system. Make sure you include those attachments with the perio measurements and try to get that approved by insurance. But that could hold things back a little bit, but still you should be higher than 3%, hopefully closer to 33. So really look at that. The way you can look at this actually is in PracticeWeb, you can run a report. There's a procedures report, and it's not just for daily, actually. Some people think it's just for daily, but you can pick any date range. So I'm going to show you an example here. I've picked a date range going back to the beginning of last year, and this is a real database. But we've hit all the information for HIPAA reasons, but It's a real database, so real facts here. So if you first search for, you see here down here, there's it says only for procedure codes similar to. So you want to put in D11, or you could even just focus on adult prophy if you want. And then you'll see, okay, what is in the last year, how much did I do there, right? So what was the quantity? The quantity is what we really care about, this quantity number. And then the same thing you want to do for perio. So you go back to the same screen, and now you put D4 to look up the perio codes, and then you find there's the quantity, right? So these are real numbers from a real practice, and this is actually coincidentally, I didn't even know this before looking at it, it's coincidentally 3.5%. So 3.5% of their patients, based on this data, are on perio versus who's on prophy, right? So this is how you can figure out your own situation. Now, another thing is pre-appointment. Going back to the other point, pre-appointment is key. So 90% we want to get 90% for hygiene, right? So 90% of your patients should be scheduled for their next Recare appointment, their recalls. And, that is just a fact. And so what you want to do is automate the reminders. We have recall reminders that can be automated through texting. But whatever you do, really focus on this problem in 2023 of how many of your patients are getting scheduled for the next appointment. But we have automation of Recare here, and that is really, really helpful. You can send out those texts automatically. Now, another thing when it comes to just overall Recare systems, right? It's going to be going back to the reminders and confirmation. So we've talked about this. I'm not going to recap, but this is also important here to make sure they show up after you've scheduled them for their hygiene. Now, perio charting should be a priority as well. We talked about perio maintenance and how low that percentage is. So here, I would say the graphical perio chart in Practice Web really makes it easy to educate patients. I would actually show this on a big screen to them if you find the time. And that really helps them understand what their situation is. They can see the red, they can see the green, they can see where those depths are. You got to educate them what depths even, why do those depths even matter? But this is what it's for. And then also you can, you can really use the mic, right? The voice perio. And you can also, now with the latest version, you can create default perio measurements too. So there's a lot of great quick things. So make sure perio charting is a priority. You have a lot of tools in Practice to make it easy. Now, another thing for hygiene is educate, right? We talked about the newsletters. So talk about things like, National Hygiene Month and brushing techniques, and how you can see on the image on the left how oral health impacts the rest of the body, right? The whole body connection. We got to really educate them. And there's more and more studies coming out on that topic. So educate them, keep them interested. Number 4 strategy for 2023 is keep your receivables low. We want to work on this area. What do we do here, and how bad of a problem can it be? Well, poor insurance collections can be very costly. So the collections rate on average is around 91%. That's even like kind of benefit of the doubt. There's many practices that are way below that, but 91 is on average. So that's still a big loss from collections. These are things you've already provided the treatment, but you're not getting paid for it. And it can be a huge thing if you extrapolate over the life of the practice. Now, with patients, so there's some statistics here about what's the collection rate and if in any given month, right? So you have different, there's sort of like a fork in the road. If you look at the top 10%, bottom 10%, you can see that there's that loss, right? If you want to look at it this way, a little different than the last slide. This is another way, top practices are doing much better in this area, and then they get paid for what they're doing. So, we want to exceed our AR targets, right? So what we would say here is we want these benchmarks to follow. You should have benchmarks like, okay, 75% of our receivables will be within that 30-day period. Then maybe 15% will be 30 to 60. Then maybe 7% only will be beyond the 60 to, up to 90. And then very few is going to be after. And that's maybe where the collections come in, sending people to collections. But This is kind of like a healthy distribution here, but you should check out from running the AR reports in PracticeWeb where you guys are, and then set those benchmarks for your billing team of, we gotta, you're never going to be all 100% 0 to 30, right? That's just not a reasonable target, but you should up your target. So whatever you have now, figure it out from the AR report, and then try to hit some targets. Again, this is about setting goals and achieving them in 2023. Now, the other, that one last point there is, we have a lot of AR, more than we want beyond the 90 days. So let's really try to work on that definitely this year. Now, put someone in charge of this. You can really look at production from the production report, obviously, pull up the numbers there. And then you can look at the income, right? So this is kind of a very rough way to look at what is my collection rate. Obviously, some of what you're collecting this month is not going to be from production that was done this month. So it's a little bit of a mismatch there, but you can get a rough idea. And especially if you look over the period of, let's say, a year like this is doing here, or even 90 days or something, you'll get a good idea of what your collections rate is looking like. So accounts receivable ratio formula, right? We want that, the ratio we just talked about. There's let me see. Yeah, so basically you want to show here the total accounts receivable divided by the average monthly production, and that should be the ratio. So the goal should be 1.0 here. So total AR divided by monthly production average, and that's your ratio, right? That's the goal that you want to hit, 1.0. Now, the other thing is check balances and catch them at every opportunity. We talked about Smart Caller ID does this, Patient Dashboard does this. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be using these tools when you're talking to patients, when you're checking them out. These are easy ways to make sure, when they're calling in too, these are easy ways to make sure that you catch those balances and collect. Now, another thing on the insurance side is you want to digitize your workflow, right? So less than 13% of practices are actually doing this. So it's a big opportunity to get a leg up. So that starts with verifying benefits. You save a lot of time there. Attachments integrated in PracticeWeb. Claim submissions. Hopefully most of you are doing e-claims by now. Inquiry status you can do, and then payment. Also, you can do ERAs and do it electronically. And that's the next point here. So payment, obviously, too, you can have those ETF. So there's a lot of ways to digitize and to improve the collections process when it comes to insurance through PracticeWeb. Now, another thing is you can really save time, save money, and accelerate your cash flow with patients if you're kind of using digital processes, right? So this is kind of building off the last point there. You can save a lot of money on productivity and faster payments as well from insurance. Now, with patients, you can also do a lot to improve the cash flow. So patients pay, very quickly when, I think it's within an hour when they're billed using their preferred method. And then they pay within 5 minutes if they are given methods like text and email and all that. So what we have in PracticeWeb, we just announced an integration this month, which is amazing, with a company called Global Payments. And what you can do there is do really nice pay by text. Now, this doesn't cost you anything extra. You'll just pay the same kind of transaction fees. And actually, the transaction fees can be much lower than what you're currently paying. That's kind of what they try to do when you move over to Global Payments. So we're going to have a whole webinar on this next month. I'm just going to give a quick preview here. So we have texting, right? And they can pay right away any balances they have. This is, again, to reduce that AR, right? And so within PracticeWeb also, you'll be able to do integrated card processing. So as I mentioned, Global Payments is our preferred partner here. They also will give you a free device. We have a special that we're running. You'll get, you'll be able to do tap to pay and Apple Pay and all the latest stuff. So you can do pay by text, run the card physically, take the card over the phone, all these great things to make it convenient for the patient, right? Make it easy. So those are the strategies when it comes to reducing the AR in 2023 and collecting quicker. So let's get into case acceptance. So case acceptance for new patients, it's around 25 to 35%. This is because they don't really trust you at this point, so it's kind of low. Existing patients, it's still not. We loved it to be like 90%, but it's 50 to 60%. The 90% is the target for case acceptance, and that might seem unattainable, but it is certainly where the most successful practices sort of land. And so there's a big missed opportunity there. And we want to figure out ways to increase case acceptance, right? So first, you want to know, what is my case acceptance rate? There's a lot of ways to figure this out in PracticeWeb. One way here we've given is go to the presented procedure totals report, and there's basically a treatment presentation report under the, I think, in the monthly section. So you can look at what is the completed treatment amount plus the scheduled treatment amount, right? You see those two boxes there, the pink and the orange or peach, and then divide that total by presented treatment. And then if you multiply that by 100, you'll get the percentage. That's kind of like you can say your case acceptance rate. So this is a recorded webinar, so you can always go back and look at this if that was too quick for you. But that is the formula. Now, how do we invest in case acceptance? How do we increase it? So make sure that the doctor has enough time to answer the patient's questions, right? Don't rush this process. You don't want to be too efficient, right? Sometimes you're too efficient with the appointments. Let's give ourselves some time and then have processes in place where you can really support that case acceptance. So figure out who handles which parts to ensure the patient is always introduced to the next person in that flow. So if you're going to hand off to a treatment coordinator or someone else in the front to kind of continue that discussion, have a good handoff process so that everyone's on the same page, right? Have a good handoff. Don't drop the baton in that process because you're in a rush. And then financing is another key thing. Have financing, which we're going to address near the end of this webinar, to ensure that patients can commit to treatment. And then scheduling, make sure you schedule for enough time, as I said at the beginning, for doctor to talk to the patient and ensure the patient can get in quickly for care. And then showing up. And actually on that point, same day care is amazing if you can provide that too. If you can have a system where certain procedures can be done same day, that'll be great for case acceptance. If they have the time, if they've taken off that day or something, then let's just get it done. Less opportunity for them to hesitate or change their mind when they go home and they don't feel, in the office is when they're going to feel that treatment is the most important, right? When they leave the office, they're going to start feeling like it's less and less and less important to get that done. So try to do same day. And then reminders, as we talked about, make sure they show up. Also, make sure the patient knows who to reach afterwards if they have questions, right? So if they've accepted or they haven't accepted, who can they get in touch with? Okay, so maybe it's a treatment coordinator. So when they call back, ask for me and we'll go over this again if you have any further questions. So have a routing process there. Don't just get them to the front person who will maybe not be able to talk as much about that. What are the barriers? We had a whole webinar on this, so I'm just going to cover this overview here. So the barriers to case acceptance, we're always wondering, why don't they accept? So number one is going to be distrust. So what you can do there is repeat the options again, increase the education. Maybe you can even offer a second opinion referral. That's kind of a more subtle technique, I would say, or less used technique. And then next is going to be treatment fears. So anxiety, obviously, they have anxiety about getting things done in their mouth. So explain it away, explain why, reduce that anxiety, empathize. So patient education videos are really good here too, by the way. And we can offer those to you, but that's great. Empathize with them, discuss the triggers for that anxiety and really comfort them, right? Empathize. Payment, right? Confusion about payment. In practice, we have clear treatment planning that you can do and present it to them. Use that feature and use the electronic signing there too. So break down cost, explore any discounts you might be able to give them, find financing options, and even break up the appointments if needed. There's usually another decision maker, and they may not even be present there. Maybe a spouse, or could be, something else. So find out the bottom line. If your husband or wife were here, or whoever that other decision maker is, what would their questions be? What would be their hesitation? Let's try to address that right now, right? So pretend they're in the room and give the patient the ammo to convince the other person if they're not there. So send info right away, offer a teledentistry option there, and pause for a call too. If you can just call them, get them on the phone. Now, last thing is going to be time. So find the ideal time and day for them. Obviously, shorten the appointments if you can. Do full quadrant appointments if you can. So try to eliminate time as a roadblock. Now, another thing, as I said, simplify the process. Get them sign on the dotted line, right? As the famous Alec Baldwin in Glenn Ross said that, sign on the line which is dotted. So get them to sign on the line which is dotted. You can do that electronically through PracticeWeb, and they can clearly see what's going to be done graphically, and then they see the breakdown for insurance if they have that, and if you've applied any discounts, get it signed electronically. So another thing, a feature I like that not a lot of people use, which helps again with the communication aspect, is use the layman's term feature. So all your common procedures, go to the procedure code in the treatment, the procedure code list, and assign layman's terms to all the common stuff. So don't call it a prophylaxis, call it a teeth cleaning, right? Don't call it a composite, call it a white filling. Make these terms more layman's, and so then that will show up in your treatment plans, in your chart module, in the account module, the billing statements. It'll be much better for the patient to understand what's going on. So use that layman's term feature. Okay, number 6 strategy is marketing your practice. So let's do this better in 2023. I think everyone can take a step forward here. No one is doing everything perfect when it comes to marketing, but let's focus on the existing patients, right? So that's going to maximize our return on investment. In every study done, the probability of selling to a new patient or let's say new customer is much lower than an existing one, right? So 5 to 20% you're going to actually sell to a new patient. Selling to an existing patient, 60 to 70%. So marketing to them is your number 1 priority. Number 2 priority should be new patient. And then acquisition costs, the amount you're going to spend on Google ads and marketing flyers and things, it's much more expensive to get a new patient than to convince an existing one. So that's again why we got to focus here. So how do we do this? Well, number 1, empower our existing patients to spread the word, right? So collect reviews. We can automate that through PracticeWeb. So automate your review process. And then what the reviews also does for you is you get internal feedback from those, so you can see where you need to improve, right? There's nothing better than hearing directly from a patient of where you can make some changes. You might be guessing about what to change, but hearing it from the horse's mouth is always going to be better. So that's the other benefit. And then for new patients, you can attract them. This is the number 1 marketing tool is reviews. It's much more effective than Google ads and anything else. So 95% of people now say reviews are important, and people read at least 10 reviews before deciding to book with a dentist. Now, another thing with existing patients you can do is send out these specials, right? So we have texting to send out specials. For example, here's a quick campaign. Be one of the first 50 patients to text back the word brighter and get a free teeth whitening kit at your next cleaning, right? So any number of campaigns can be run. We may, if we don't have a blog on this already, we'll create one very soon, but there's a lot of type of campaigns you can put out there. And then secondly is emails, right? On the right side, you can see an email option for this. So you don't want to become annoying here, but I would say every 3 months, every 6 months, there's nothing wrong with that, and patients aren't going to get too annoyed, and many of them will actually like being made aware. And nowadays, they're just very much used to getting all kinds of marketing emails, so this is not like unusual to do this every 3 or 6 months. You can do this through the recall process we showed earlier, or as a marketing campaign, but this is more like a recall reactivation kind of campaign. This one is a seasonal campaign, so something you could that actually makes it more fun and less annoying. So if it's like let's say a Halloween type thing or that October time period, trade in your candy for free electronic toothbrush that you're cleaning, right? So they want that free toothbrush. It's just a way to get them in. You're putting obviously some investment of giving that toothbrush, but you're getting them in for their cleaning that. And you can actually target people who haven't come in for a while to send this campaign out. Then individual procedures, you can say, get the smile you deserve. Start your dental implant treatment for $0 down. Get 20% off. 20% off. So you can actually target through PracticeWeb the patients who have been planned for these implants, for example, and then just message them, right? You can have targeted text campaigns. And then packages, right? Invisalign, start Invisalign and get a free whitening kit, etc. So all kinds of specials, and a healthy process will definitely entail at least a few of these per year, if not more. And you can target them. Have a growth plan, right? So practices lose 17%. We talked about that. And, overall, you kind of shrink, right? So you're losing 17%. You're not refilling that with new patients. You're shrinking. You might have 5% growth in new patient, but you're losing 17%. So you actually didn't, you actually shrunk by 12% that year. So average practices break even year to year. Top 10% grow about 18%. So you got to figure out what your target is, but have a growth plan. And so there's an example. Top practices based on studies that we have seen, they have a net difference of 73 patients per month through reducing the amount of patients they're losing and adding new patients. So that's not all new patients. Maybe it's 40 new patients and we reactivated 33 of our old ones. So you have 73% difference there, or total. Now, next thing is, for when we're talking about growth, we got to track our referral sources and really nourish those referral sources and lean in on those referral sources. So the way to do that is make sure your team is marking the field of referred from when they add new patients, and you can actually make this a required field in PracticeWeb. So you don't have to just tell them. You can really literally make it like they cannot click OK until they mark the referred from. So they got to ask the patient, how did you hear about us? And then they mark it here. You can set up all your referral sources through the referrals list, right? And there's a whole tutorial on this referral process on our YouTube page. So then you can analyze where are patients coming from. If it's doctors, you got to nourish them. You got to send them the gift baskets. You got to go meet them, have lunch, do all the things to really keep that relationship strong, and send thank you letters, etc. If it's patients, definitely have a reward program if you can. And actually, you should have a referral campaign going out through email every 3 or 6 months as well. And you can set that on repeat with our service. And number 3 is, if it's a source like Google, Facebook, whatever, then okay, this is really important. Looks like it's trending higher. Let's put more resources, more money, more investment, more content into that source, because it's really starting to show some fruit. So let's water that plant a little bit more, whether it's Facebook, Google, Yelp, etc. And as I already kind of alluded to this, but have a referral program. So new patients, 20 to 50% come from word of mouth. It's the big benefit is when they're referred by someone they know, they're 4 times more likely. I think 4 times more likely to choose the dentist. And then the existing patients can actually, so if there's an exclusive offer you give to your existing patients to share with their friends and family, then 91% of them will actually share that, right? So if you say, okay, just for your friend or family, if you refer them, they're going to get this extra deal or offer, and make it obviously compelling or good. But 91% will actually share that with a friend or family. And then have a, like I said, referral campaign running every 6 months, every 3 months, and you can give them a reward of some sort for that. Now, make the next thing in terms of getting more patients, etc., is make it virtually convenient for them. I'll just do a quick kind of cover the from A to Z how you can make your practice convenient for the patient. So number 1 is you can send your mobile forms within Practice Web. This is a free thing. When you pair it with the texting, you can send it via text. So the mobile forms are free. The texting service, if you have that, then you can pair this together and just have a note template to send out the same forms every time when a patient joins your practice, or even if they need a medical history update, you can do that. So make that convenient. They can just click the link and fill out the forms before they come in. Then you can have online scheduling. So online scheduling would be a really great option to make it convenient, really, really big to feed patients in. This is showing kind of how the forms work or how they look on the mobile. And then another thing you can do is virtual smile consults, right? So you can have teledentistry, and that's actually a really big trending area, and we offer that teledentistry within Practice Web. So overall, make your practice virtually convenient. Again, texting, online scheduling, digital forms, smile consults, these are all strategies in 2023. So keep your chairs full. This is number 7. Now, what we got to do here is, obviously, cancellations equal lost production. We don't want cancellations, but what do you do when that happens? Because 10% are canceled, as I said, right? You're losing money there if you don't fill it. So what you can do, a lot of you will be doing some of this, but you can go back to your recall list, look at people who need to come in, try to fill it that way. The more you're looking further, have a process. So let's say you look out 7 days in advance and you see some gaps in the schedule. So have a protocol, right? What do you do when there's an opening? So recalls, plan tracker is a great list, because that's if your office is creating planned appointments in the back. So your clinical staff, when there's something that needs to be done for a patient and they don't do it same day, you should create a planned appointment in the dental chart or from the treatment plan module. And then that will be available for the front office to kind of, either they can schedule it when the patient comes to the front, when they're checking out, or in the future, now we can go to the plan tracker list to try to fill gaps in our schedule, try to get those patients to come in. Next is unscheduled lists of people who may have canceled, but you never got them rescheduled. Go there and try to get those people back on the schedule. ASAP list, that's fairly obvious. If hopefully you're using that. So, if patient says, I want to come in earlier, or you recognize that they might want to come in earlier, then put them on the ASAP and you can go there. And all of these can be paired with texting, right? So you can mark as ASAP, as I said. And then let's just take this example, right? So let's say we mark someone as ASAP. I'm trying to fill a gap in the schedule. I go to the ASAP list. I click on the text button, and now I can just text out to everyone that there's an opening. And then when I get that response, it'll show an alert, and I can get that on the schedule. Now, the other thing is Treatment Finder report. So there's Treatment Finder as well as Treatment Plan Manager. There's 2 similar reports, and you can look up those people who are. The Treatment Finder shows patients with benefits that are unused benefits, and that they have some sort of treatment plan that's pending, right, that they haven't done yet. And that will allow you to identify and then text, or you can call them if you want. You can do any type of follow-up here, but do some sort of follow-up to fill those gaps, right? And just kind of showing all the different criteria. So you can choose, when the treatment plan was made, which providers, code range. So this is where you could zoom in on, like I get an example of implants earlier. So you could zoom in on implant procedures or whatever ones you want to focus on. And then you can text that out. So another thing I'll say, just sticking on this for a moment, on the other report called, let me show you that real quick. The one right below says Treatment Plan Manager. The difference is that one actually shows the treatment, like procedure by procedure, that was planned out but not completed. So if you want more detail, you can go there and do the same texting and email option. And email is actually free; it's included. So why not use that? At least in the other report, the Treatment Plan Manager. Now, online scheduling. This will be another way to step this up too. You can share your booking link everywhere your patients are. So in your newsletters, in your promos, in your recall reminders, you can put an online scheduling link, right? And that'll make things. That'll help you keep your chairs full, essentially. So this will prevent those gaps, and it'll be feeding into the schedule. So this is real-time online scheduling. We've done another webinar on this as well, which we'll link to. but this will really help. And you can put it, like I said, everywhere on your social media, on your, texting, everywhere. Now, eighth strategy is to collaborate more in 2023. How can we collaborate more? Maybe we think we're collaborating too much already. So we want to be data-driven. Data-driven huddles have 30% greater production. This is facts. This is from real data. A lot of, thousands of practices. They see that this happens, 30% greater production overall. 9 in 10 dentists are sharing production goals and results now in 2023, at least some of the time. So this is like not a hidden thing anymore. It should be done. And 5 in 10 dentists share goals and results all the time. So there's some discrepancy there, but I think it's good to share these things with the people that are going to be implementing your goals. So one way to do this is production goals. Some offices are using this now, which I'm happy about, but not a majority, I would say. You want to set up goals. We can help you do this. I think we have a tutorial on this, but you can call us. Essentially, set up goals so every day your team knows what they're shooting for when they're scheduling, right? They shouldn't be in the dark of whether this is a good day or a bad day. There should be a clear data-driven indicator. There's a good day or there's a bad day. We got to make it good or we are on track. So you can see here some examples of the goals and production. And the way to do this is calculate your goal based on historical figures. So go to the reports, go to production and income, run that for the last year. This is one approach. And then look at those numbers. What you want to do is follow a formula. So the one formula is look at prior year production. And by the way, you can do this by provider because I think provider by provider, it'll be different, right? And you have to set your goals in PracticeWeb by provider. Prior year production, divide by 12 months. So you want to there might be a month where there's more production, less production. Average it out, divide by 12. Then estimate average hours per month that provider works, right? So let's say they work, 40 hours a week times, let's say there's 52 hours in a year, but let's just average that out. Let's just roughly say 150 hours on average per month they work. So then you would divide it by that, and then you divide average operatories that they are assigned to. How many operatories do they normally work in? Are they scheduled in per day? You can average that. It could be one day could be 3, one day could be 2. Just average that out, divide it, because the reason you have to do this last step is the hourly goal in PracticeWeb is by operatory. So if you're working in 3 operatories, let's say for 3 hours, then it's going to be the goal times 9, not the goal times 3. So you have to look at average operatories to get divided by that to get your correct hourly production goal. And then, so there's a tutorial on how to set up your schedules if you're not using them. That's a really important step. And then once you've done that calculation from that formula, you just plug it right into the provider screen. You go to list, provider, edit provider, and then put in the goal, and then you're done. That's going to now show on the schedule every day. It's going to be accurate. We don't want to do rough. The other day, a doctor was like, I want, just to set my goal at 5,000 per day. Well, that doesn't really work. It's not reasonable. It's going to frustrate your team because not every day is the same. You're going to have different hours, different providers. So you want to have it this way, right? And we do the rest. We spit out the right number in that goal section. I spent a little bit of time on this because I think it's super important for 2023 to do all the things we've been talking about. So then, you can create the view then to see that goal. And that's it. That's how to do the goal part. Now, other collaboration techniques here for 2023. So we have a lot of things that that have been there for years actually, but you may not be using them as much. So for example, task list, that's really good. You can assign tasks. You can, the administrator can kind of assign them, make sure, hey, has this been done or not? We have a whole tutorial on this too. You can do, wiki. So use the wiki, because you can even use wiki for things like company policies, cancellation policies. Maybe you've done a time study of how the appointment time should be set up. There's so much internal education you can provide to your team through the wiki feature, which is free. Now, that was a lot in collaboration, but I think it's super critical. Number 9, is nailing the patient experience. So it goes with almost without saying, if you give a better patient experience, you're going to get more revenue, right? So 84% of practices that focus very closely on experience have more revenue. So that's to say it rarely doesn't pay off, right? Anything you invest here, it's going to pay off. You also see 50% higher financial performance when you have better experience. So what we had a previous webinar where we went through this in detail, but we did an analysis of patient reviews. So top practices have more than 10 reviews. They have self-service tools like we talked about, online scheduling, etc. They have text messaging. The reviews don't talk about they don't complain about paperwork. That means they're probably digitizing that. The wait times are almost non-existent, right? Because they're efficient, or they have the right amount of staff or providers. And they also provide good estimates, good benefits verification, no unexpected, or not no, but almost very low unexpected bills after treatment. And then they also do really good patient education. So these are the things that from reviews, from the horse's mouth, from the patient's mouth, we hear these are the things that result in 5 stars, right? So that would be like, that was a short plug for patient experience, but we have a whole webinar separately on that, but really focus on improving that in 2023. Now, last thing I'm going to cover here is flexible payment options. So we want to address the elephant in the room to boost case acceptance, to make them happy, and to produce. So 1 in 3 patients are uninsured as of 2023, dental insurance at least. And then 1 in 2 can't afford an unexpected bill of $400 or more, meaning that if you just say, hey, you got to get this treatment done that you didn't even know about, and it's going to cost you $2,000, and if you don't have a good payment option, then 1 in 2 are not going to accept that. So you have to have flexible payment options. Now, one really fun and in modern feature is the membership plan or discount plan. So, I've personally gone to dentists, and pretty much all of them have had this now. All the leading practices have some sort of discount or membership plan, especially for patients who are uninsured. So you should definitely think about implementing this. There's a blog article that goes into really detail about this, and we'll include that in the follow-up on this webinar, in the emails and etc. But there's a really easy way to set up your discount plans, and you can have it a limited plan to as comprehensive as you want, right? There's a whole detailed process that you can do if you want. So discount plan, offer that to your patients, and they can pay some monthly fee or annual fee for that. And then another thing is payment plans. So we have DocPay, which has been there for a long time, which provides really great guaranteed and non-guaranteed payment plans, extremely low fees compared to other companies. I won't name them, but there's big third-party financing companies that take a huge chunk to give you that option, but this DocPay is extremely low, either no fee at all to you or extremely minimal, like 1%. Another option which we've just introduced is called TuaPay or Delay Pay. This is going to be through that pay by text feature in global payments. So you can set basically a threshold. So if a patient has a large balance, you text them, they can write on their phone, they can just do a third-party financing. They'll get several options to do that, and then you will simply pay a low cost. It's somewhere around 4 to 6%. So still much lower than the big boys out there. The other big boys. This is also a big boy, but the other big boys out there. And so there's really no reason why you can't provide third-party financing with these two options. So those are the payment plan things for 2023. And with that, I think I'm really excited about 2023. I'm really excited that we've given you a lot of things at least to think about and to kind of check and really improve. So let's work together. We are your partners in success, and just call us. We're here to help. That's why we're here. So option 2 at our normal number there, 800-845-9379, or you can email us, or you can do support from the actual software. So you go to remote support, and then you just fill out a little form to just contact us. So I'm going to actually end on that note. We really enjoyed talking to you. today and sharing this information. Please do give us feedback, and hope this was helpful. Thank you for your very valuable time, and we look forward to continuing to serve you. And we're going to work with you to help make 2023 better than 2022 and help you achieve your goals. So thank you very much, and be sure to rewatch this to catch up on anything you missed. Have a great day, great rest of the week. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.